Hi, Betty.
Hi, how are you? Hi, Renee.
I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. Thanks so much for spending some time with us. One of the things you and I have talked over the years is about free enterprise and how important free enterprise is, and how small businesses are related to the construct of free enterprise and why it's so important. And you've been at this for a long time as an entrepreneur in this country, and I know you have some strong feelings about it. Can you tell me just a little bit about how you think about free enterprise as it relates to small businesses for our audience who are mostly small businesses?
Well, when you start a company or you have an idea and you make the product or you create the service in your garage, you say, gee, I'm going to finance this house. So maybe you have some money in the family or you talk to a friend and you start a business. Those are started on the basis of usually shoestrings. People scramble around and try to raise some money and start a business. And what's interesting today is of the jobs that are created in the United States, 70 to 80% are started by these enterprise kind of companies. And usually they're called flow-through entities or sub-S companies or partnerships.
Right.
They're not the traditional big corporate C corporation. IBM's a C corp with shareholders, lots of shareholders and public money. So they start with a private enterprise idea and some money from the individuals that started. And those are the big job creators in America.
And can you tell us a little bit about what do you think the strength of a family-owned enterprise is, say, as distinct from a non-family-owned enterprise?
Well, I think private-owned, family-owned companies generally make decisions more quickly than big companies. And when you get an idea as an entrepreneur or an enterprise, you push through the idea. You don't restudy it 10 times generally. You go ahead and you make quick decisions. I think free enterprise companies are more attractive for lots of people to work for because they don't have to go through layers of committees to reach a conclusion, to make an investment in a machine or a new process. So I think quick decision making be one. Making decisions without reams and reams of data. Once you believe in the concept, you go and make the decision. You don't wait and wait and wait. Another characteristic of sort of entrepreneurship is you give 100% support to a decision that might have been 51-49 at the time.
Yeah.
So I equate it to when you're going down skiing through a group of trees. Once you decide to go to the right of the tree or the left, you give 100% support for the decision.
Right.
Or if you're whitewater kayaking and there's a rock ahead of you, which I used to do a lot of, once you decide to go to the right of the rock, you give it all. And
you better lean into it, right? Right.
So I think those are characteristics that private enterprise or private-owned companies that entrepreneurs make that are different than big companies.
But what does the government help or not help small family enterprises? What's your opinion about that?
Well, I think they're relatively neutral, but the dilemma right now in Congress is, as they consider reforming the tax laws, is that C corps have a rate, and there's a general agreement that the rate on C corporations is around 39%. Doesn't compete fairly in the world. So if we're charging 39% and China's charging 25%, that puts a lack of competitiveness among American companies to compete with Chinese on tax rates. So the idea is on sub-S LLCs or partnerships, the same treatment. If they're going to reduce the rates on C corps in this country, we ought to reduce the rates on sub-S corporations. And that's a dilemma because sub-S corporations are taxed at individual rates. There's not agreement in Congress to reduce individual rates. There's this psychology: if someone's rich, they should tax them at high rates.
Right.
Okay, so the idea of not taxing a sub-S corporation at high rates, it's sort of a big sub-S corporation, is troubling to some people. I think they'll work it out if they have to. And now as sub-S companies, or let's say entrepreneurships or enterprise companies, become more worldwide in nature, the issue is whether you bring the money back to America, which is a big debate now, or leave it overseas, because if you bring it back to America, you're taxing U.S. rates. If you leave it in Ireland, it's taxed at 12%. I can do that
Big
math.
difference, yeah.
And then you reinvest it from Ireland. Instead of having a research lab in Chicago, for example, or Denver, you might have the research lab in Ireland or England and be taxed at 12%. With that extra money, you have now flexibility to compete in the world at these lower rates. I think that Congress will figure that out. I hope they do.
I'm glad you're optimistic about that. I've only been struggling with that for decades and decades, so I hope they bring it home.
Oh, for sure.
Now, you're the head of a third or fourth generation business.
Yes, third.
And I think you have your son
Yes.
as one of your chief executive officers. Do you have some suggestions or advice for people who might be, asking for information about, you think I should have my son or daughter join the business? I mean, should I make them? Should I invite them? Should I stay away from it?
Well, I think one of the joys of private enterprise or family companies is to have young people that are partly yours come along.
Speak of the devil.
No, start again. I think one of the joys of a family business is to see the opportunity and to have members of the family join the enterprise because they like it, because they've grown up with it. You know, the family dinner table isn't just talking about sports, it's talking about business, it's talking about opportunity, it's talking about invention, at least in our family. And so the idea of having sons or daughters come along and participate is a great joy. And if you have a family company, you had no member of the family in the business, it wouldn't seem so successful in my view. The fact is, it's much better to think that your family business will continue on for another generation or two, and you need family to do that.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges of having your children in key positions in your companies?
Well, I think the biggest one is that people that are your offspring don't necessarily think like you do.
That's a problem.
So, I mean, that's partly wonderful because they come with new ideas which may help grow the enterprise. So you have to overcome that. You have to try to get a relationship that understands one's strengths and weaknesses and their beliefs and how different they are, and figure out a way to work together.
And what would you give yourself a grade A, B, C in really having a relationship with your children that transcends the business?
I would give myself, because I really enjoy my children legitimately, and I also spend a lot of time with them, and it's a great delight for me. I sense that they like it, so I'd give myself an A.
Okay, I'd give you an A, about an A- too,
Okay.
Gary, so that's good.
Good.
Hey, thanks so much for your
Good.
time, I appreciate it.
I'm happy to do it.
Okay.